to get to know him last October. So that being said, you guys are in for a treat. We promise you that. And with no further ado, please, give a nice Southern California welcome to Andrew.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, hi, guys. I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning, so if this sounds in any way coherent, it'll be a miracle. As I opened up at in the October conference, if you take an animal that's wounded and you put him into a cave and then you stick your hand in to bring him out, two things are going to happen. A, he's going to run deeper into the cave, or B, he's going to bite you. And I have been that animal probably since the Lincoln-Douglas debate. No, if not sooner. No, I go back. I mean, I've been a successful under-earner probably back to when I got my first Heathkit computer model when I was 16 years old. I remember that, yeah. Tried to call Belgium, and I ended up with Newark. Then I knew I had a problem. UA began from the first committee meeting about 6 years ago today. Let me just give you a little background on me. My first fellowship was Debtors Anonymous, and everyone said that was a graduate program. But for me, it was like kindergarten because I had nothing to compare it to. So I was just like in a new experience of being in 12-step recovery. And I got into DA by one day I was sitting in a rooming house after having driven my Honda Accord cross-country and leaving it at LAX. I said, gee, there must be a Debtors Anonymous. And I went to my first meeting, and that was about 11 years ago. And then I was in DA for about six years or so, and six and change, and I said, you know what? I was listening to a woman qualify at our big meeting that Jerry knows about on 12th Street. It's every Friday night. We've got about 100 people there, at least for the first part. And she said she had never recovered from under-earning until she had worked the 12 steps. And at that point, I was also reading Earn What You Deserve that Jerry wrote. And I want to also say right here that UA would not exist without Earn What You Deserve. So it just would not. It wouldn't exist because there was so much perception into the disease that I resonated with in my life and that coupled with my 6 years in 12-step recovery, that I said this is a separate addiction. Now I said, you know what? There's got to be this separate fellowship that deals with under-earning, and no one at the New York fellowship was enthusiastic about it. In fact, a couple of people were downright pissed off. They were pissed, man. They said, what do you mean? What are you doing? Who the hell are you to do this? And then I said, okay, thanks, Ma. Put Dad on the phone. Boy, is that a cheap joke or what? Well, I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry. What do you want? Diamonds go to Africa. Anyway, so is this thing on? Anyway, so I'll tell you how one of our tools is the action meeting, and I'll tell you how the action meetings began. John Henderson, who started Debtors Anonymous, borrowed it from GA, Gamblers Anonymous, and it was originally called, in GA, the Pressure Relief Group. Now, what happened, the Pressure Relief Group, is that you had the gambler, and he generally was pursued by the loan shark. So the Pressure Relief people would meet with the loan shark and negotiate some type of settlement. So if you think your next PRG was difficult, you don't know nothing. It's like to meet some guy named Zeke with no neck in a back alley near the waterfront in East Bayonne at 2 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, but I digress. So we started UA in Nyack. And the only reason we got it off the ground is because the Thursday meeting of Nyack had 30 people in it. And I was Mr. Service. I was the treasurer. I was bringing speakers from New York. I was, the GS. I mean, I was doing everything. The only thing I wasn't doing was, cooking the burgers, but we didn't have any burgers. So I convinced them that UA had to exist. And this was about 6 years ago, about this month, give or take a couple of weeks. And we had our first committee meeting around now. And the first face-to-face meeting of UA was October 16th, I believe, which was a Monday night, 2005. UA has grown from one meeting in Nyack to a fellowship that includes meetings in Copenhagen, London, Columbia, not the university, the country. And, of course, many meetings throughout the United States. Without a doubt, one of the most dangerous things you could do to recover from addiction is start a fellowship. Believe me, it really is. Because what happens is that people begin to tell you, you must be so proud. Mistake. Don't say the proud shit. Thank you so much. And what happens is that you go into. I'm basically recovering from the longest pink cloud in recovery history. I think we're about 4.5 years at this point. It really is true. It's a very dangerous thing to start a fellowship. And Jerry warned me. He actually said, there were these pitfalls you got to look out for, and I didn't listen. So what are you going to do? A little bit about my history. I think most people in 12-step recovery come from families where there's a lot of abuse and neglect. Mine was no different. Bill Wilson, who started AA, was abandoned by his mother and father as a child, and was raised by his grandmother. And so I had my own share of that. And going back to what I started from the beginning, under-earning is either about hiding or biting. And there's a workshop I'm doing tomorrow which is really going to get into that very, very specifically, so I'm not going to go through with that chapter and verse now. But it's all about, for me, a combination of magical thinking, putting up with gloom, not taking strong actions to get out of it, to build prosperity into my life, and it's essentially having it's a societally approved level of insanity. I mean, America in a way loves people who under-earn because we don't really ask for very much, and as Jerry mentions in the book, we work very, very hard at it. I have worked my ass off to under-earn. 7 days a week sometimes. Literally. I once, and in my darkest days of under-earning, I was applying for disability insurance, and you have to have a certain income level to get disability insurance. And the guy looked what I was making. He said, "Are you kidding?" But that was then. This is now. Every vision I had, and I hope, and I'm saying this for people to relate to it. If you've had visions that you began to work on them and then the energy went out, it's just like a light switch. If you had financial goals and it was impossible for you to achieve them, and you didn't achieve them, and you beat yourself up for them, and you beat yourself up for having them, is an example of what's talked about in the third step prayer, the bondage of the self. The bondage of the self will cut off the energy toward vision like a light switch. It'll cut off the desire and healthy application of prosperity in a nanosecond. A couple examples from my life. When I was 18, I was studying acting. And I was also studying a guitar with one of the best studio guitar players in New York. He would basically give me these assignments. I would go home and I wouldn't do them. And I wouldn't think about why I wouldn't do them. I just wouldn't do them. So that's an example of how I was, in a way, my resentment, which is, in all addictions, as they say in the big book, How It Works, resentment is the number one offender. Also, I believe it's in page 57 of the 4th edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, you also have italicized fear. I resent Jones, fear. My wife is, no, she wants to lock me up, fear. So it goes back to the hiding and biting thing that I said in the beginning. So I was at this guitar teacher, and he said, I would like you to, do this lesson, do that lesson, and I'd go home and I wouldn't do it. Or I'd come back and I'd do a fourth of it. Or I'd come home and I'd give him some excuse. This happened in acting school. I was studying with a William Hickey, who was Dominic Prizzi in Prizzi's Honor. You remember that? It was not a great role. So he and tons of other stuff. And he would do these signs, do the monologue from Waiting for Lefty, do the Sunshine Boys, page 48, and go get an acting partner, go run this scene, and come back and do it. And I just refused to do it. And I couldn't understand why this was happening. This is a very, very sober application of insanity, because I wanted to play the guitar and I wanted to study acting, but I couldn't allow myself to do it. What was happening is that my disease was saying, no, this is way too exposed. This is you're open to too much criticism, potential criticism. This is the wound in front of this environment saying, oh, there's no way we can allow this type of visibility. So we have to go back and hide in something else. Lie to yourself, come up with some BS story, come up with a spin, justification, but we can't be vulnerable. We can't be in this community. I was about 17 or 18 during that happened, and that has happened to me about 50 or 60 times over the next 35 years. It happened in writing sitcom scripts. They said, you got to write 10 sitcom scripts and send it to these agents. I wanted to do it, but I couldn't allow myself to do it. I think I wrote one or two. It happened with voiceovers. They said, you want to do voiceovers? Here. Send out these tapes to non-union houses, call them up, ask them if they got it, and then you'll develop a relationship, and eventually you'll get better and you'll work. Again, it's a very logical thing. I couldn't allow myself to do it. In fact, I got my first voiceover job, and I saw the engineers behind this other glass, and they were doing this with their head. I said, that's it, I'm out of here. Because I thought they were making a comment about me. And again, the way I began to understand this, and when UA began, I had no idea that what I was really doing was accessing a behavioral pattern that was plaguing me all my life. Because, it's very easy to come up with a psychobabble of self-esteem or emotional disturbance. It's sort of, like, what does it even mean? There are plenty of people who are emotionally disturbed, and there are plenty of people who have serious mental illness who accomplish great things in the arts. It's not that simple. So I didn't understand what was going on. But what was happening is that I was refusing to allow myself to be of service to the community. What this weekend is about is for all of us to gain some insight, some skills, to be of better service to the community and not hide and not bite. It is about really wanting to do a good job and not cause problems, and not, if someone calls you up to ask you to do a service for them, to not underprice, to not have fear happen in the pit of your stomach and say, oh, I can't ask what this price over here, I'll just ask what that price is, and doing it again and again and again and again. It's about asking for what the market will bear. It's about having the most prosperous, abundant, visible life that you possibly can. Under-earning for me has definitely been about turning my back on my soul. It's been about me being callous to the spiritual being in me over and over and over again, and subjecting myself to great seriality. I had an experience a couple of weeks ago where a friend asked me to play lead guitar in an off-Broadway rock musical. And when I was preparing for it, I kept on saying to myself the third step prayer over and over again. I kept on saying, I really wanted to go in with the most spiritually based application to providing that service. When I did that, I was able to go in, and that actually created an affirmation that I'm a brilliant guitarist to the degree I am. I'm a brilliant guitarist to the degree I am. And that allowed my playing to go from this level to that level. And I was able to I wasn't hypercritical to myself. I wasn't beating myself up. I wasn't putting myself down. There were no crappy voices in my head. I wasn't resentful. I was in a state of bliss. I was in a very relaxed, inspired state. And the best playing of my life came out. And not only did I get tons of compliments from him, I also got tons of compliments from the audience and like really great reaction. That is really where I am now. I understand that I am an animal that has a wound, and I've got to put a spiritual Band-Aid on it every morning through prayer, meditation, continually working the steps, keeping track of my time, because I really, you know, when UA began, I said, you know what, I'm a time drunk. I don't care, and left to my own devices, what I do with my time. I have no concern. Hours will go by. Hours will go by. I'll be watching Dr. Phil, and it'll go into Susie Orman, and that'll segue into Fox News, and I'll end up with, Connie Chung on Channel 47. Time drunkenness is really part and parcel of what this disease is about. And it has different phases to it. It really does. It's not just a matter of watching television too much. It's a matter of we do something. I mean, I remember I was a couple of years ago before UA, the guy said, gee, when was the last time you sold a full market for our company? I said, I don't know. He said, you did it last week. And that's exactly what it's like. We forget what we do. We devalue what we do as in terms of accomplishment. Even when we accomplish great things, we demean them. We'll say, oh, that's nothing. Because at the end of the day, without recovery, all I want is to be back in my stinking cave again. Basically, what I've been, in terms of under-earning without recovery, it's being addicted to cave. Cave, cave, and more cave. I can't get enough cave. Just stick me into the damn cave, and I'm as happy as a clam. Just let me have that cave. What, is that all right? That's all right. Belly up to the bar, pal. Misery loves company. There are many types of caves. There are many, many types of caves. You may have the cave of your cubicle. You may have the cave of your apartment. You may be laying on a daybed in your panel basement and who the hell knows? You might be listening to old Rudy Valley records. But caves are part of what this disease is about, and really recovering in UA is about coming out of the cave. I was in London a couple of months ago, and we did a workshop, and one of the things that I asked people to say to each other after each exercise, as I'm going to ask of you tomorrow, is that I need you to help me overcome under-earning. And I really do, because I can't do it alone. In fact, all by myself, I'm like a boat that's at the dock, and I can't move into the center of the harbor. I can't move from the center of the harbor into the shipping lanes. I can't go from the shipping lanes to go out at sea. And once I'm out at sea, I can't make good navigational choices. Alone, I can't do it. I don't have the microchip to do it. I need action partners. I need a sponsor. I need a team to make good choices in my life. No matter what I do, I just can't do it because my disease alone wants me to go back into the cave. A person was asking me before about the tools, and I was saying, tools are okay and in any fellowship, but if you don't have the spiritual muscle, it's like being in a workshop where you have a great, drill. It costs $500, but if you don't have the muscle to pick up the drill and use it, it's not going to do you any good. So if anyone is here thinking that they could just pick up a couple of tidbits on tools and time management and vision and then just go about your life, if you really have the bug that I have, forget it. It ain't going to work. This is no different. Under-earning is a tsunami. It really is. It is a tsunami. I mean, ask my first guitar teacher. He'll tell you. It has so many ways of impacting what we do and what we don't do with our lives. It basically has a very negative impact on all the choices we make. So the thing is that this is no different from any 12-step fellowship. We need to have a sponsor. We need to work the steps. We need to work the tools. We need to trust God, help others, and clean house. it's no different from any other fellowship. You cannot two-step UA. It just doesn't exist, because if you're in an abstinence program, whether it's food, drugs, or alcohol, each day that you don't pick up is very clear. It's great. And it's a phenomenal, incredible thing. However, under-earning is an interactive experience. You're interacting with yourself, and you're interacting with your community. You're interacting with your clients. And that's a highly qualitative field that we're talking about here. What are we doing with our clients, ourselves? How are we using our time? How are we relating to visions that we have? Idea deflection is one of the symptoms of under-earning, and how many people have been told, you'd be great at this? Come on, be on. And then you said, nah. Or you said, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? That's idea deflection. It happens in the blink of an eye. Other people who don't have this bug, when they're told, hey, you'd be great at this, they'll say, oh, really? Maybe I can take a course, take some action. In fact, I'm going back to comedy school. People say, yeah, pal, after listening to you for a half an hour, you could use a couple of... When are you starting? But I'm going back to comedy school to work with a teacher who used to write for Rosie O'Donnell, and she's done stand-up for like a million years. And the reason I'm doing it is because I want to give better community service. What I'm doing now is trying to do the best community service I have that I'm able to having been up since 3 o'clock in the morning and flown across the United States. And Jerry will tell you about his experience. Mine is nothing compared to that. But community service is really what it's about. I don't want to bite. I don't want to hide. And if someone says I'd be great at something, I want to embrace that, because that's a gift they're giving me. If they're saying, gee, you'd be great at this, you should be on radio, you should have this blog, whatever it is, I want to embrace it. But I can't embrace it alone. I could only embrace it by doing the third step prayer, by coming to meetings, by keeping track of my time. Also, I'm in Debtors Anonymous, and it's very important that I'm solvent, because debting is an inebriation, like drinking, and it'll totally, if that's your deal, if all the DA people here, man, you can't really overcome under-earning if you're debting, because it's like being drunk and trying to, do good stuff. It just can't work. Let's see. Do a few more minutes. So basically, what really this weekend is about is looking at how vision, how you can embrace vision and to not deflect it. It's about looking at what step one really means. What does hiding and biting mean in your life? It's really for you to know how that behavior is happening in your life right now that you may not be aware of. It's about looking at money in a new way. What Eddie was talking about was the energy that comes from money that is often distorted from us. That healthy people look at money as a very graceful, abundant thing. We look at money as like this, and it's all jagged and freaked out. And I say, hey there, gonna grab that money. Well, no, I don't want the money. Well, it's too much money. No, I can't take that money. I'm not worth it. Are you crazy? So we don't have a healthy relationship with the energy that is money, because really all money is energy. I mean, really, what is a dollar bill? It's energy. It can buy a pack of certs. Well, that's inflation for you. But that's a different seminar. But I mean, really, energy, money is energy, and it relates to our spiritual ease or dis-ease. One of the lessons I've learned, I'm going to be talking about one of my workshops tomorrow, is getting rid of my right to resentment. I have a Nightmare on Elm Street story that'll take paint off the wall, guys, but it's done me absolutely no good to this date. I've gotten nothing out of it, other than, oh my God, you poor guy. And what it allows me to do is take the day off, the week off, to say, gee, I'm amazed I could tie my shoes given what I went through. Let me tell you another story. So I've given up my right to the Stephen King version of my life. I've given up my right to the Stephen King Nightmare on Elm Street version of my life. It does not work. I know what happened. I know the story. The story isn't working anymore. So I've tried to look at gratitude a day at a time, to be grateful for everything, to forgiveness a day at a time, not to complain. How many people have really gotten a lot out of complaining? Anyone here? Anyone is really? We'd like to hear your seminar on how that works. Complaining is basically being a crap magnet, as someone saying, my life really isn't bad enough. Let me have a lot more crap because I don't have enough crap. So I'll complain and have more crap and crap on top of that crap and crap and more crap. So I've given up complaining. I really have. I've given up complaining. I've given up resenting. And certainly resentments do come. I was taught by someone who has a lot more recovery than I do to do the third step prayer whenever I resent anyone. So I do it about 25 times a day. But it has shifted my life, and it has opened me to more prosperity. UA is about vision. It's about prosperity. John F. Kennedy said many years ago, a rising tide will raise all boats. And in UA, the people who've recovered the most have an increasing tide of prosperity. On that tide are different boats. One boat could be recreation. How many people have a healthy relationship with recreation? We want to hear your share about it. We can go to the side of the room. And then the other issue is quality of work. How many people are happy with what they do for a living? That's okay. Good. All right. You can be happier. And then, of course, the issue of money, of the way we handle money. It's not just making more money, but what do we do with the money? Because again, there's a parallel, between money and time. What do we do with our time, and what do we do with our money? And those are, and believe me, there's a link up between that just as much as there's a relationship between fear and resentment. They're very, very, very much yoked. So this is all about raising the tide. UA is about raising the tide of prosperity. I knew after about 6 years in DA that it wasn't hitting my fear, and I knew it because I had this cup, and the cup had this crack in it. And one day I was looking at the cup, and I saw this crack of porcelain on the top, and instead of throwing it away, I just turned it around and drank from the other side. And I said, Houston, we have a problem. And I went over to my alarm clock, and I was trying to make the alarm clock work, and I think I dislocated a digit because the alarm switch was so corroded with stuff. I don't know whether it was Cairo syrup or Mr. Clean. But anyway, I learned that I had to let go of things that didn't serve me. And one of the things that we do in UA is letting go of thoughts and choices that don't serve us. We'll talk more about possession consciousness during the week. During the weekend. And I think that's about it. It's great to be here. I'd like to meet as many people as possible. And thank you very much. Thank you. Are you ready? Okay, at this point I want to introduce the man himself, Jerry Mendez.